episodes to listen to that. He talks a lot about that. But let's go back to your beginning, because there's so much that I want to pull out of that. You graduated in 2002, became partner in 2003. So we have 1 year, and right away you're negotiating your associate contract. Let me start with this. What made you so sure and certain that you wanted to own instead of just being an employed associate? And what are some things that the listeners should think about and weigh as they're going through that decision of, should I own, whether it's cold start or buying in, or should I just go the route of being an associate?
As an optometrist, you want to have input into what's the decision making. So you want to go into a group, you want to be a part of the decision making process of the group, because what you'll find out is once the newness wears off and you walk into a group and they tell you, okay, we're going to switch EHRs. Okay, now you're going to start using this particular, we got rid of this contact lens company. We're not going to use them anymore. We're going to use this contact lens company, this ophthalmic lens company. We're going to go to something different. It's these decisions that impact your clinic that, number one, it's nice to be a part of that decision-making process. And number two, from a business aspect, you're getting compensated for the work that you're doing, but it's also nice to be investing long-term into something that is creating equity into your portfolio as a whole. So as a doctor, if you can own and you can work in practice, you're getting a dual investment in helping you pay off those student loans a lot quicker, because then the value of your education goes up significantly, because we are unique in the sense that you don't have to have an MBA. You don't have to invest all that time and energy into becoming a business person. You just have to do it hard knocks. Or you can come in and be a smaller partner. Maybe you don't want to run the business, but you know, we have multiple partners because we're bringing in the next generation to own smaller percentages of the larger entity. But we're also teaching them how to lead, because the next generation needs to learn how to lead, because I still firmly believe best patient care is when a doctor who's the owner is making a decision on what we're going to do, that we're going to do best for patient first, profit second. You can't go profit first, patient second. Nobody says that, but you watch people's behaviors. Behaviors will tell you what your priorities are.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, so it sounds like one of the best reasons to own, and maybe the best reason to own, is that you do have that control and creative freedom over how the business is run and managed, and how and around the patient experience and everything you'd want to do in that practice. What are some of the drawbacks then that these ODs need to keep in mind when they're looking at that?
I'm going to back up one. I think I missed a key point, Evan, on the ownership, because it's the same reason that I chose not to sell to PE, but instead to move forward. And a big thing that kept coming to me was autonomy and freedom. And I think when you own a practice and you're setting your schedule and you have that autonomy, that's an amazing, you can't put a price tag on that.
Yeah.
And so I think that's important, because we do talk about finances, and I know that that's an area that you're helping a lot of us out in. But the autonomy and the life that you get in that, of nobody tells me that I've got to see a patient on a Sunday.
Yeah.
I have nobody that tells me that I have to do that. So sorry, go ahead and ask the question. I think you said, what are the negatives, or what
are the drawbacks to keep in mind? Those are some of the positive. What are some of the other things to weigh in that decision?
The risk, the emotional spend that you deal with day in and day out when you have to make decisions. So one of the things, as people look at the environment now and they say, things are just not good for private practice. When you've been in it for 20 years and you've seen all the curveballs that have been thrown at you, you just have to learn to hit the curveball. I mean, we do that in all different stuff, but I use that in baseball. Is if you go up against a different pitcher and they've got a different type of curveball, you don't just walk away from it. You're like, okay, how do we hit this guy? It's the same thing in optometry. And one of the negatives is you've got to learn how to ebb and flow and change and lead change. So you have to be you got to be able to embrace change and to lead people through change. So your leadership
Mm.
has to step up, but that can also be a negative because it can create a lot of emotional stress. You can't just walk away from it, drop the keys at the door and say, "Hey, I don't have to worry about it."
Yeah, interesting. And one of the lines that you had written about in your article was that there is freedom that comes with being an associate, which I thought was interesting because you don't always hear about freedom being associated with being employed. You hear about the freedom of owning a business and everything we just talked about, but there is freedom in being an associate well as well. This is something I actually wrote about after reading that, in that no matter which direction you go, practice ownership or being an associate, there's freedom down both roads in that. As an associate, you do get to walk away from the clinic, enjoy your evening, enjoy your family, and just be present and not have to think about all that other stuff that comes with business ownership, and not have to take home all of those other administrative duties. And you're not rocking your son to sleep thinking about are you pricing your frames correctly, or different things like that. So there's a lot of freedom that comes with being an associate, and you just have to sort of think about which freedoms and which drawbacks are you looking for in your life, and do you feel most comfortable with. Anything to add there, Chad?
I think one of the things that is happening in our industry as practices are growing and as you are getting further developed as an owner in a clinic, OD, taking and delegating and not trying to do it all. That's where I
Mm,
see a lot of the people are getting to, is they're burning out because they're trying to do everything instead of working on the practice. Like they're working in the practice, then they're trying to work on the practice in the evenings and the weekends. And instead of taking the risk to maybe add another associate, add in two associates so you can work on the business, now it's consuming your life instead of it being something that you're enjoying having, because your investment, your time, your energies, your systems and processes are now paying for themselves because you've got a successful business. Because in
interesting.
optometry, the reason PE wants to buy optometrists is because you look at practices and you can't get the return on investment anywhere in the market like you can in a healthy practice.